eXp Realty Stock Explained. With eXp Realty, there are multiple ways in which the agents can share in the actual ownership of the company. And in this video, I'm going to explain how stock at eXp Realty works, the ways in which agents with the company get stock, what they're getting stock in, and why it matters. My name is Tyler Royke. I help people build income and wealth through real estate, and I run an international real estate team at eXp Realty. As you're watching the video, if you have any questions or if there is anything I can potentially do to help you now or in the future, go ahead and send me an email. You'll find my information along with some other helpful resources for you in the description below. And with that in mind, let's dive into the video. So let's start with the basics. What is stock? Well, for this, let's take a look at Investopedia. And according to Investopedia, a stock, also known as equity, is a security that represents the ownership of a fraction of the issuing corporation. And units of stock are called shares. And shares entitle the owner to a portion of the corporation's assets and profits. So quite simply put, a share is a portion of ownership in the company that issues stock. Traditionally in the real estate industry, agents do not have a streamlined way in which they can share in the ownership of the actual company that they are building by being productive real estate agents who sell real estate and ultimately build, grow, and scale their businesses. eXp Realty's founder, Glenn Sanford, knew firsthand from his experience as a top producing real estate agent and team leader that it was the agents that were driving revenue into the brokerages they were affiliating their license with, and it was on the back of these agents that these big brand name brokerages in our industry really established themselves. So the agents were the ones out there getting clients, building their businesses, and as a byproduct of that, it was the owners, the franchisees, the franchisors, and everyone in between who shared in an ownership stake in these local companies that benefited and ultimately lived out their dreams and their visions as a result of the revenue that only would come in if their agents were out there selling a lot of real estate and taking care of their clients. But if that doesn't happen, then no one else gets paid in that traditional franchise brokerage model. Well, Glenn looked at that model and thought, this doesn't make sense. Why is it that the owners in this franchise model are the ones that ultimately get to live out their dream lives, while all of their agents are essentially stuck in this hamster wheel of production, where as soon as they stop producing, they don't have a way that they can continue to have revenue coming in if they're no longer in production. Whereas the owners in this franchise model, traditionally, they're always going to have revenue coming in based on the production of the agents they have working within that model. And so Glenn wanted to find a way that you could take the whole concept of that and open up that opportunity to a whole lot more people in our industry, and quite frankly, to put the agent in a position of ownership, to position themselves to be able to have that kind of upside where they could have something that they were building along the way that would ultimately allow them the opportunity to live out their dream in their life, and not to only build that for some other owner, but to be able to build that for themselves so that they could secure their family's future. And so as Glenn was envisioning what a new business model would look like within the real estate industry, he envisioned something that truly put the agent at the center. And so it would be an agent-owned, cloud-based real estate brokerage, the first of its kind. And that vision came to life in 2013 when eXp became publicly traded on the OTC markets. Now, this was the first time in the history of real estate brokerage that any company had became publicly traded for the sole purpose of sharing ownership back to us, the agent. Had never been done prior. And just 5 years later, eXp met the listing requirements of NASDAQ, so uplisted. So now the stock in which we as agents sharing the upside in ownership on, it's traded on the NASDAQ alongside Apple, Amazon, Tesla, all these other disruptors in these major industries across the world. And eXp is the company that's causing massive change and disruption in the world of real estate brokerage. eXp is a tech-based real estate brokerage that's exponentially growing, going global, and it's still early on. eXp has an organic growth model with a variable cost structure. The company is cash flow positive and has zero debt. And it's a company that's built by the agents for the agents. And as such, agents with eXp Realty have multiple ways in which they can acquire shares of ownership in the company. Besides buying stock on the open market, which anyone can go out and do, in particular, there are 5 ways in which agents at eXp Realty can acquire more shares of ownership as they're going about closing transactions and building their businesses. The first 3 ways are through the Sustainable Equity Plan. And there are 3 different milestones within the Sustainable Equity Plan that agents can hit throughout the year as they're going about their business. The first way is by closing their first transaction of the year. Each year, when an agent closes their first transaction at eXp, they receive a share award of $200 worth of eXp shares. The second way is that when an agent fully caps for the year, they receive an award of $400 worth of shares. And the third way is through growth. As incredible as the growth has been at eXp Realty, literally shattering records all across our industry in terms of how quickly this company has grown and scaled to the agent count we're at today and the production we're doing all across the board in our industry, this company doesn't have a single corporately paid recruiter on staff. Instead, the company gives the opportunity to us agents to refer our friends and colleagues to this company. So our record-breaking growth is 100% driven by referrals from the agents within this company. So when an agent at eXp Realty refers a friend, fellow real estate agent, who decides they want to operate their real estate business at eXp and they close their first transaction here, the agent who referred them will receive a share award of $400 worth of eXp shares. And by the way, this is completely optional. Those who wish to take advantage of this program can absolutely do so, but there is by no means any requirement to do so. And all these awards are production based because they happen based on production based milestones, such as first transactions closing, as well as hitting your cap every single year. Now, those first 2 awards can happen each and every single year, and that third one can happen as many times as an agent's referred to this company who closes their first transaction. The fourth way that agents can acquire more shares of ownership in the company is through the Icon Agent Award. And this is the big one. For agents who achieve a certain production threshold and meet a series of cultural milestones throughout the year, the company is willing and able to share back the entire cap, not in dollars, but in stock, in the fastest growing real estate company that's ever existed in our industry before. Let that sink in. So through the Icon Award program, the company will share back up to $16,000 worth of stock to an agent who hits that milestone every single year. And the Icon Agent Award in particular is meant to be something that appeals particularly to top producing real estate agents. At eXp, that's about the top 2% of producers at the company today, or those who aspire to build their production to that kind of threshold. Generally, those who are closing on $8 million plus in gross sales per year will be within the threshold that you need to be in order to achieve Icon. And that brings us to the fifth way that agents at eXp can acquire more shares of ownership in the company, which is through the Agent Equity Program. Agents who are opted into the Agent Equity Program have the opportunity to take 5% of their gross commission and put it towards buying more stock in the company at a 10% discount every single month. And so this is 100% optional. You can either opt in of it or you can opt out of it. And either way, it's not a permanent decision. You can opt in or out at various points along your real estate journey if that's what you would like to do. But for those who are opted in, the company will automatically take 5% of an agent's gross commission and put it towards buying stock at a 10% discount on the last trading day of the month based on whatever funds are ready for purchase. And that's gonna be based on any recent transactions you closed in which money was being set aside for that purpose. For me personally, this is something I really appreciate because when I started out in real estate, I was a part of a big franchise, and like many franchises, I was paying in on top of my splits, my fees, and everything else they charged me for. I was paying in something that they called a royalty, which is another word for a franchise fee. And in that situation, I was paying 6% towards the ownership, not of something I shared, but towards the franchisor and franchisee. So I was benefiting their ownership in every transaction I was closing. Here, we're not a franchise, so I do not pay a royalty or franchise fee to some other owner. So instead, what I opt to do is I opt to pay myself in acquiring more ownership at a discount to what is being traded on the open market. So agents at eXp ultimately have the decision to make whether or not they want to opt into this. And what I tell someone if they're not share is, hey, ask your CPA. And this is just me thinking out loud here, but I mean, I wonder what your CPA is going to tell you if you show them that you can get shares at a 10% discount every single month, where effectively you have a 10% gain built in. What are they going to tell you? Well, it'll be interesting to see and find out if nothing else. So ask for their take if you need to, but otherwise do what you believe is best for you, your family, your goals, because you got an option to opt in to that or not. And by the way, those first 4 awards are vested over a 3-year vesting period from the time those shares were awarded. And that 5th one, you're more free to do so as you please with that as soon as those shares are available for you to sell, which there's not a 3-year vesting period or anything like that with those. But generally speaking, there's a timeline between when those share purchases happen and when your last transaction closed, because it's got to line up with the next date in which shares are going to be purchased. So now that you know the 5 ways in which agents at eXp can acquire more ownership in the company, I think it's important that we make mention of what is it that the agents are actually sharing in the ownership of. So when agents at eXp are acquiring more stock in the company, it's not simply the brokerage that they're acquiring shares of ownership in. No, it's actually eXp World Holdings, which owns eXp Realty, an assortment of other companies in our industry that are all aligned with helping us real estate agents do what we need to do to operate our real estate businesses and even to stay relevant as our industry is constantly evolving. So that ownership includes not just eXp Realty, which is the main thing within it, but also Success Enterprises, a 125-year-old personal development company, which you may have seen before if you've ever seen Success Magazine, which has featured all sorts of the who's in entrepreneurship in the world of business on the cover. That includes Verbella, a tech company which created eXp World, Showcase IDX, Zoocasa, and an assortment of other companies that are centered around helping us real estate agents become the best we can possibly be in the industry, but also to stay relevant as our industry is constantly evolving. So we're sharing in the ownership of a multi-billion-dollar real estate tech company that is shattering growth records all across our industry, that is cash flow positive, pays a dividend, and has 0 debt. Not only that, but this company has over $100 million worth of cash on the balance sheet, and it's a cash flow machine, which I believe if you take all the financials and put it all in a nutshell, I don't see another company in our industry that is well positioned as eXp Realty to be agile as our industry is constantly changing and evolving, especially as all these other cloud-based companies are coming into our industry that are centered around not keeping the agent at the center, but quite frankly, wouldn't mind taking the agent out of the picture. eXp is the only company that's cloud-based in the mix that I see truly putting the agent at the center and doing everything which it possibly can to truly provide us as the agent with the most in the way of opportunity. And by the way, last time I checked, over 70% of the outstanding shares to this day are owned by agents, founding agents, truly agent-owned. A very small minority of all the shares outstanding are institutionally owned, which is very different when you look at the other companies that are in our industry, which are publicly traded. They're not agent-owned companies. So now that you know what agents are sharing in the ownership in, why does it all matter? The reason it matters is that when you make the agents owners, it completely transforms what the culture of the company is like. The culture of collaboration and agents helping agents here at eXp Realty is unlike anything else I've ever seen or experienced in the real estate industry, let alone in any industry I see out there. It just completely changes the dynamic of everything at the company when you make the agents owners in that company. Quite simply put, think of the difference between owning a house and renting a house. You're more invested in something you own versus something you rent. You simply care more as an owner. As real estate agents, we tell our clients all the time, why rent when you can own? But traditionally, over the course of history in our industry, we as agents have rented our real estate business from our brokerage. And I say that because in any situation we're paying into our brokerage, but it's the owner of that company and that brand name that is benefiting from the actual ownership of the company. It's not us agents. For all intensive purposes, at a traditional real estate brokerage, we are renting our brokerage. eXp is the first company of its kind that has turned that completely on its head and positions us as real estate agents to have the upside that only comes with ownership in the actual company that we're building as a byproduct of being successful, selling a lot of real estate and building and scaling our real estate businesses. And the more that we do those things over the course of time, the more of a share of that ownership we will have as we close deals and build our business. So when you have a culture of agents that are aligned in ownership, and when you have the Icon Agent program that is awarding the top 2% of producers in the company today with shares of ownership, more ownership in the company for hitting not only production milestones, but cultural milestones, which includes teaching classes. It changes everything. That's why we have 80+ hours of live training available on the schedule a week. That's why we have so many top producers in the company that are enrolled as certified mentors, helping mentor newly licensed agents who are joining this company today, who also have the opportunity to learn from these same top producers who are hosting trainings throughout the week. It creates a situation in which the success of real estate agents is truly aligned with each other. And what difference does it all make at the end of the day? Well, no matter what real estate company an agent decides to hang their real estate license at, as long as there's someone who's going to be productive in the business, we're going to sell real estate in any situation. And in any situation, we're going to pay the brokerage money, but it's not in any situation that we're going to share in the upside that comes with ownership in the actual companies. Consider how much ownership are you getting in any other scenario? Because in a vast majority of situations out there, at best, you're going to get a trophy, a plaque, something to signify that you hit some key milestones along the way. But over the course of time, those plaques and trophies, they're not going to be worth anything. And that's where the stories come in, because I've never heard stories from agents like those that I hear from agents who have been with this company and have really done everything they can to take advantage of the opportunity. Because guess what? Life is going to happen, and if it doesn't, we're going to reach a point in life where we're going to want to have an opportunity to live life more on our own terms. And that's exactly how this company is positioned to help more agents get to a point, like our founder Glenn Sanford says, to get to a point where they're operating out of purpose and not out of pain. Because for a vast majority of real estate agents in our industry today, they are operating out of pain. The pain of what happens if they don't go out and find their next transaction, their next closing. Because for a vast majority of real estate agents in our business today, if they stop producing, if they don't go out and close another transaction in the near future, they're in a situation where they don't have any revenue, they don't have any income coming in to their business. And that's not a problem as long as you can go out and produce. But what happens when and if life happens? What happens if you're in a market area where drastic weather conditions can happen? What happens if you have a major accident or a health issue or whatever the case is? What if you cannot physically go out and show a home? What if you cannot physically show up to do what we do day in, day out as real estate agents? Then what? How do you have income coming in if you're only paid for your next result? And that's what eXp does in a major way, is they help real estate agents and provides us an avenue to create multiple streams of income and also equity ownership, to where we have something of value over the course of time as we're going about business and life. And so there's stories I've heard here of agents who would tell you that eXp Realty has changed their lives, where the equity, the ownership they acquired in eXp simply by doing what they would do at any other real estate company, being productive agents, selling real estate and building their business, that ownership allowed them an opportunity to get through that time, to weather that storm, to help knock off a major life milestone. For instance, I know of stories I've heard of people who have been able to sell a portion of the equity that they've set aside selling real estate and go out and buy their dream house, to use a huge chunk of that for a down payment. I've heard of others who have had a medical emergency where they couldn't actively produce, and the stock that they had and were able to sell was what allowed them to get through those 2-3 months that they were out of commission and not able to go out there and produce that next result. I know of another story, actually a close partner of mine. She was able to go out and sell a portion of her stock that she owned to buy her 2 daughters houses, their first houses, just starting out in life, college age daughters, that was able to buy both of them a house. That would have never been an opportunity if she hadn't had that equity that she could use to help position them to be homeowners at a young age. And, you know, quite frankly, an opportunity that she never had and now is able to provide to her young ones as a result of what we can build here with this company. And there's so many stories like that that you'll hear from agents who have been with this company for a number of years and who have been making something of the opportunity. Show me another place where you hear stories like that from regular people, regular real estate agents who are just rock solid producers out selling real estate, helping their clients and building something over the course of time as they're doing that. And while I can make no claim as to what the stock will do in the future, I don't have a crystal ball and I can't make any sort of promises or claims like that because I have no idea what's going to happen with the stock price now or in the future. But we have past performance that we can look back upon and look at what has actually happened. So imagine if you're someone who would have hit Icon in the past, and if you looked back and take today's date and go back 1, 2, 3 years, look at those dates and ask yourself, well, what would you have received if you had hit the milestone of the Icon Agent Award at that point in time? So I pulled some charts up, and from the date of this recording, September 20th, 2022, I went back a year, 1, 2, 3 years back. And if we look back at September, about the same time of month, September 2019, if someone had Icon around that point in time and received $16,000 worth of stock, that would have amounted to about 3,900 shares at a little over $4 a share. And a year later, if they hit Icon again at that point, September 2020, around the same time of month, they would have gotten somewhere in the range of 800 shares at around $19, $20 a share. And again, if they hit their third Icon Award about a year later, same time of month in September, the stock was trading right under $50, and that would have amounted to around 320 shares of stock. And so if you look at that, if you're someone who would have hit that milestone 3 years in a row, the company would have awarded you back your cap 3 times, $48,000 in company stock for hitting the production milestone and meeting the cultural requirements as well with that. But if you take that at today's value and look at the total amount of shares you would have received, that would have been around $60,000 in stock in today's value. And you know, the value of the stock has fluctuated pretty drastically over that same period of time. But here's the bottom line. If you're a top producing agent anywhere else in our industry, how much stock would you have after 3 years of being a top producing agent? I know the answer for most is a whopping 0. So regardless of what the stock is trading at today, would you rather have $0 worth of stock in ownership, or would you rather have an ownership stake that might have some upside in the future depending on how the company and how the stock performs? And you can pull the public filings. Like I said, as a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ, highly regulated by the SEC among others, you can pull those filings, look at the financials, and draw your own conclusion on what you believe the strength of this company is financially. And for those of you who are already familiar with stock, something that you may be wondering about is dilution. Doesn't it dilute the stock when the company issues more shares to the agents? I mean, when you consider how many agents are out there achieving these awards and milestone, even the Icon Agent Award, which typically over 200 agents a month are earning that at this point, it's a substantial amount of shares of stock that the company is issuing. Well, here's what's incredible about that. The company was made very well aware a few years back about concerns from investors about the stock being diluted from all these awards. So guess what they did? The company made a decision that they would make repurchases of shares to offset that potential dilution, as the company's in a strong enough financial position to actually do that. And so as a result, in 2021 alone, the company was able to successfully repurchase nearly $172 million worth of stock. And in doing so, was able to successfully 100% offset the awards of stock that were issued to the agents throughout the year. And now this video is all about stock, so I'm not going to dive further into what I'm about to say next, but I will say that in addition to being able to do that, the company was also able to pay out $157 million worth of revenue back to the agents. That was on top of the stock repurchases that were made. And so far in 2022, the company has repurchased nearly $80 million worth of stock, again, to offset any potential dilution from issuing these stock awards to the agents. And all of that to put the agent at the center of the biggest opportunity that exists in our real estate industry today, one in which you don't have to be the person who owns the brand name or buys into a franchise and writes a huge check. No, you have that opportunity day one, deciding to operate your real estate business at eXp Realty. If you're a real estate agent, broker, or someone who's just wanting to sell real estate and make the biggest moves that can be made in our real estate industry today, there's never been an opportunity in terms of what eXp Realty provides for agents that are serious about making those kind of moves. And the equity through stock and ultimately ownership in the company is part of what makes it all work. And that's how the stock works at eXp Realty. And at this point, here's what I tell you. If you're a real estate agent out there, especially one doing production, and you're wondering what these numbers would look like for you, I'd be more than happy to connect further with you and help you run your numbers through the eXp Realty business model. We could take your past production over the previous 12 months or what you're projecting you'll do in the year ahead and run those numbers through the eXp Realty business model to see what it would look like, especially in terms of equity and ownership, and what opportunities you could have to acquire stock and what those numbers could look like for you if you are operating your real estate business on the eXp platform. So if that's something you'd be interested in looking at, go ahead and reach out to me. You'll find my email in the description below. And beyond that, if you have any questions at this point, or if there's anything I can potentially do to help you now or in the future, go ahead and reach out to me. Over the past 7 years, I've spent a substantial amount of time learning about the different business models and value propositions that exist in the real estate industry today. And as a result, a little over 5.5 years ago, I aligned myself with what I saw being the best business model and opportunity that exists for real estate agents in our industry today, and that's eXp Realty. For real estate agents today, I've never seen anything like it in terms of the 4 key things we need as real estate agents to effectively operate our real estate business in terms of training and masterminding, support and mentorship, leads, and compensation. I've never seen anything like what eXp Realty provides. So in my opinion, eXp Realty is the best real estate brokerage for an agent to be at in any market area. eXp is a tech-based brokerage that's exponentially growing, going global, and it's still early on. We have an organic growth model with a variable cost structure. This company is built by the agents for the agents. The company's cash flow positive with 0 debt. It's possible to get to a point where you're getting paid 100% commission, or better yet, to a point where the company is paying you to operate your real estate business here and not the other way around. If you're doing your research and have any questions about eXp Realty, go ahead and reach out. I'd be happy to help you figure out what aligning with eXp Realty would look like for you if that's something you'd be interested in learning more about. So go ahead and call, text, or email me anytime to book a discovery call. And if you learned anything new or got any value whatsoever out of the video, all I'd ask is that you like, comment, and subscribe so that I can continue to share more with you on the journey ahead. And with all that in mind, thank you so much for watching the video, and until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.